Listen, it is always a pleasure to have you here to talk about The Chosen, which is a great piece, and so that you know this is something that is for everyone, not just for one group, it's for all groups.
It's a very serious story, and very important one. I wish people would follow Jesus and his sandals the way you said, and not vilify poor people in this country, which is going on everywhere.
I'm a Christian, but I actually read that about 30% of your audience is not religiously affiliated.
That's right.
What do you think draws them in?
What was it like going on The View? Because I would imagine you would have thought, oh, could be a minefield.
In a massive shock and surprise to everyone, Jonathan Roumie, who plays Jesus Christ on the hit show The Chosen, is back on The View and other shows that tend to be associated with the anti-Christian Hollywood cabal. This is Make Faith Famous. Thanks for joining me. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's get into it.
Please welcome back Jonathan Roumie. Jonathan, season 5 is about to begin. It just keeps growing. The show is just remarkable that way. There's also an animated spin-off. Last year, there was a Chosen Con, and there's a great possibility that it could reach 1 billion viewers. Wow, yeah. People tell you all the time how much the show means to you. We've had this conversation. Can you talk a little bit about how you take care of yourself in order to be the person people would like you to be and also stay who you are?
Yeah, I think for me it really comes down to making sure that I'm right in my own relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And for me that means acting out my faith, practicing my faith, and then trying to live at times very difficultly by the modicums of how to approach life that Jesus taught. Like he set a really high bar, and it's not easy to follow in his footsteps or his sandal steps. But I try my best, and I try to be present with people when I encounter them on the streets, and even if it's at an inconvenient time or they're asking something of me and want me to do something.
Just want to pause real quick before we get to the conflict with Joy Behar and say that I don't know about you, but I really feel the genuineness of Jonathan here, and I so deeply appreciate that he is using this opportunity to essentially share Christianity or the concept of Christ-likeness to the millions of people or however many watch this show. Anyways, moving on.
Whether it's baptize their babies or marry couples or in the one case, hear a confession. I said, no, leave that for the confessional booth. That's not for me. I play the high priest, but I am not a priest. So, just really trying to remember to have grace with all those encounters.
This season of The Chosen focuses on Holy Week, the Last Supper, and the events leading up to the crucifixion. And I'm a fan of this show. I'm a Christian, but I actually read that about 30% of your audience is not religiously affiliated.
That's right.
What do you think draws them in?
Great story. I mean,
it's the greatest story of all time.
The greatest story ever told, and hopefully, for us, told well, and in a way that is comparable to any other cinematic expression or television shows that are out there,
Yeah. Well, the last time you were here, you said, quote, "There's always more to learn about Jesus." What have you learned about him while playing him, and how has it changed your relationship with him?
I learned.
And by the way, after this question, we get to the Joy Behar challenge. But Jonathan gives a beautiful answer before things kind of go off the rails. Let's hear it.
But I have a lot more to learn about him. It's a lifelong journey, no matter where you are in the journey of faith, whether it's you just getting familiar with the Bible or you've been a lifelong student for decades. There's so much to learn. There's so much to be able to live out in your life in trying to reach those ideals, reach that bar that he set. And as you do so, just the trying of that makes you better as a person, as a human, as a member, a productive member, hopefully, of society in a way that you build community, you foster love, you engender hope in people. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah, it's a very serious story. And
Everything's peaceful, everything's nice, and then here we go.
yeah, it's a very serious story, and very important one. I wish people would follow Jesus and his sandals the way you said, and and not vilify poor people in this country, which is going on everywhere. But let's switch it a little bit because you also played comedy. Yes. You did the Mindy Project, The Good Wife, which was pretty funny too, in its own way. What's your next move?
So this fall, I'll be doing a romantic comedy alongside Kevin James. A movie called Solo Mio. It's a whole different side of me for audiences. I'm clean shaven for starters, so that might be a shock to some people. In fact, I'd seen a meme, I think I posted a picture clean shaven, and somebody posted a meme and said, please grow your beard back. They were very unsettled by seeing me clean shaven. They're like, oh, yeah.
Well, Jesus, it's really hard to go back.
He's hard to top.
Yeah.
He's hard to top.
It's crazy how she seemed to have enough of the conversation talking about Jesus and being a Christian, and she entirely derailed the conversation, but not before sort of throwing some political bait out and seeing how Jonathan would react. It really reminds me of the first time he went on The View, and we covered this in a previous video where Joy did the exact same thing. Have a look.
Do I have time to ask this question?
Go ahead.
So, in the clip that we saw earlier, which shows Jesus speaking up for marginalized people, the poor, etc., which is the Jesus that we love. Not everyone interprets that message the same way these days. Religion in this country even seems weaponized at times. As a man of deep faith, which you obviously are, does that frustrate you at all?
In that clip, we see Jesus basically taking to task the Pharisees that have essentially perverted the law or taken the faith and made it about the specificity in the letters of the law versus the heart of the law versus the community. They were taking great pains to follow the law at the expense of the followers. And there was injustice in that. And, anytime you see injustice taking place, Jesus is not going to be happy about that. And so I think the fact that we see him speaking his mind about it, I think he gave us a really tough example to follow,
And again, just a wonderful display of how to avoid the political jabs or undertones of the question in front of so many people and just stay focused on Christ. And speaking of which, hey, if you're still here with me, thank you so much. I love this movement that we're starting. I actually work full-time in ministry as my day job, but this channel has been such a rewarding way on the side that I've gotten to use my God-given gifts to advance the kingdom. And if you didn't already know, I made some really slick, elegant hats that represent the Make Faith Famous movement. Got one of my favorite Bible verses, Matthew 5:16, on the back. And we're on track to ship thousands this year. And my little personal goal, I tell my wife, is that I want to be walking down the street and see someone out in public wearing one of these hats. Then I'll know we've, quote unquote, made it as a movement, right? All right. Next up, Jonathan is asked a pretty direct and transparent question on a Catholic podcast about his experiences on The View. And this sort of inside baseball really interests me. And so naturally, I thought it would be super interesting to you all too. Check it out.
Yeah. You're not on there. Now, so I wanted to ask you, what was it like going on The View? Because I would imagine you would have thought, it could be a minefield, but you seem to handle it. You did handle it really well.
Thank you. I think for a millisecond I was like, I wonder how this is going to go. But I was never worried. I prayed about it, of course, and like everything else that I've committed to on this journey, I have to surrender it. I'm like, Lord, you've given me this opportunity. I must be for a reason. So I'm not going to worry about the consequences. I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm just going to go authentically be who you made me to be and just be present to people. And the response was overwhelming. It was unexpected in many ways. And and especially for people watching the show, people were more nervous for me than I was nervous for me. I'm like, well, they're people. They're just people. And afterwards, after this segment, I had conversations with every one of the hosts, and they were lovely. And what I realized is there are so many people that are just on a journey. They're searching. They don't necessarily, they may not necessarily believe. They may not necessarily know what to expect. But they're searching, and they were open to what I was bringing to them through the Holy Spirit. And that's the main thing. I gave rosaries to everybody, and they
Good for you.
They happily accepted
How did they take them? Yeah.
They happily accepted them.
What did Whoopi say?
She was great. She's met Pope Francis, I think, twice now. So we're neck and neck. So I gotta beat her. I gotta one up her. I gotta meet him a third time before she does, because otherwise that's it. My reputation is shot if she meets him.
And do you prep for, like, what if they just try to corner me on some of the things the church teaches that are, heretical to secular dogma? Were you afraid that they might try to do that? And did you have a plan ahead of time, or?
I think like most interviews you go into, like, you hopefully have a conversation with the people that you're going to talk to or their producers, and just say, hey, if something comes, like, this is what we're
about, and
this is like what we're looking for. But it's a live show and you just don't know. But I didn't worry about it. And Whoopi's been kind of a friend. She's become kind of a friend as well. And I think I felt, even before that, like, I felt like, I think it'll be fine. And then if something does come up, and there was some kind of a question that got a little bit tricky, but I try to answer with as much compassion and wisdom as the Lord allows me. I think you have to decide what platforms you're willing to discuss, knowing that anything and everything might come at you in the spur of the moment, and just try to really, what would Jesus do? Like the bracelets from the 80s and 90s and things that are like making a resurgence now, like, it really is the phrase, it is the ultimate universal inroad into handling anything. Right. If you think about any situation, if you just ask yourself that question, okay, it kind of answers itself. Everything resolves itself if you know how to answer that question. The thing is knowing how to answer the question. Having a right mind, a right attitude, a proper and correlative, disposition to Jesus's heart. That has to necessarily inform your answer when you ask that question.
And man, I just love his responses here. So thoughtful, so gracious, but not like sterilized or watered down. He's just exuding the graciousness of Christ. And I just think this serves as a good example of that when you are truly following Jesus, you're not really baited into much. You have an eternal perspective, and you really start to see the world as God does, see the people around you as his children. It's a wonderful perspective shift. This next question is even more insider baseball-y, and I love it. And it's going to be our last clip of the video. So after that, please leave a comment and let me know what you think about all this. This has been Make Faith Famous. Subscribe, comment, buy a hat, join the movement, and God bless you.
Other than this one, are there interviews you've regretted saying yes to? Have you done an interview where you're like, oh, that went sideways? And second, to follow up on that, like, does The Chosen try to keep a rein on you? Because if you go on a show and you don't look, someone tries to make you look bad, or if you say something accidentally that was stupid, I guess that doesn't reflect well on the show. Do they keep a leash on you, as it were?
No, I think they trust me. They Dallas and I are friends for 10 years now. And they know my heart, and they know my skill, and they know my disposition. And I don't think that I would go into an interview if I knew somebody was specifically harsh for certain things to certain people. If somebody had a history of asking really awful questions to their guests, or really cornering them and things like that, well, then I probably won't do that show. Like, why tempt fate? Why give the devil an opportunity to dance? But I'm not afraid to talk to anybody that wants to sit with me. I think like anything, like, through civility and proper discourse, and we can have conversation. Let's just have a conversation.
I know.
And this is great. I'm really excited to get to be here.
Yeah,
of course.
thank you.
Yeah, and I don't think I've done anything that I regret. No.
Yeah, praise God.
I'll just sit. Like I said, I
Well,
mean,
there's always like, is there specific? Like,
Jesus went anywhere he was invited, right?
Yeah, but he was Jesus.
He was.
So I mean,
But we all have Jesus within us.
Yeah.
We all have the Holy Spirit
That's
within
true.
us.
But the last time I overturned tables in the temple, people got pissed.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, Jesus. No. Would you go on Joe Rogan's show?
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's different. Yeah.
No, and I mean, and I've
He's
seen
becoming increasingly.
He seems
positive
very interested
towards Christianity
and
these
curious.
days. He seems like he's grown in this area, which we all really appreciate.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
The question is, would he want to have me on his show?
Right.
That's for these people that we're kind of referring to, whoever they are
these big
in that
name
space,
folks,
that might be hostile towards people, that have my beliefs. Would they even care to have me on? And if they care to have me on, well, why do they want me on? Is it just to try to make an example of me? Is it just to try to like pick on me? Because that's going to reveal itself pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so I think as I think, wow, it'd be kind of cool to do certain shows. I don't care. Like, if somebody wants to chat with me, I'm happy to chat with them. If I can make it work, great. Let's have a dialogue, because inevitably, I think God will reveal something in that conversation that somebody watching will pick up on, and maybe a word that they need to hear to further their own relationship or their journey, or even explore.